Stephen Covey, although he may not recognize it anyway. We are on the habit called synergize. So basically, synergize, as far as I'm understanding it, is when something is greater than the sum of its parts. So if there's two people and two people instead of equaling four, the net result of a synergistic relationship, it would have the power of 5. And basically, I feel that synergy is about valuing our differences. Instead of seeing differences negatively, so they negatively impact us, it is about valuing those differences in such a way that those actually become an energy force of its own making. And so there is this increased efficiency on the team. So that's my basic understanding. Let me throw the ball to you, Mike. And what do you think? Synergy.
Well, I agree with everything that you said. So there's a beautiful space where we are with certain individuals where, like you said, your strengths and my strengths actually create a forward motion, a movement. And so the sum of us is greater than just one of us. And it's a beautiful place to be. But for synergy to take place, it requires the acceptance that other people have got something that they can add to our lives. There's a beautiful sort of saying, everybody knows something that you don't know.
Yes, I like that.
And everybody's experienced things that you haven't experienced. And when those views, when those strengths, when those components of a frame of reference are added together, the intellectual knowledge, the body of knowledge actually should increase, provided we honor each other and we develop ways that we can create this sense of synergy.
I love that.
So it's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Everyone has something that they could teach us, and we can learn from everyone. I think that's a really, really great saying, you know, and certainly something I've heard you say to me a number of times is, well, in every situation, just seek to learn something new, you know, yes. If we all come with that attitude. So for me, synergize is a lot about the two words, unity and conformity. And I think people misunderstand these words. What people often think is unity actually is conformity. Conformity is everyone must think the same, look the same, be the same, and so we march at one step. Well, that's not unity. That's conformity, and conformity is the opposite to synergy. In fact, yes. When you conform, you push away all differences and all other opinions, and I think you become a lot poorer for it. Unity is when you embrace all the differences, different opinions, different ways of looking at things, but you unite it under a common banner or vision or purpose. And then in that way, you bring synergy. So I think to have synergy, you need acceptance of one another's differences and seeing them as positive, not negative. And then you need clarity around vision and focus, a clear single vision with diverse opinions and thoughts around it, I think brings synergize.
Yeah. It's definitely not what is termed as groupthink. Groupthink is where everybody thinks the same. And if you think how much effort is often put into an organization to try and get people to join that are exactly like the people that are already there. And what you then have is you might have a very sort of cohesive team in the sense of there's no conflict, but the problem is they all think the same. And one of the prime examples of this, a guy called Adam Grant talks about it in his book Give and Take. Edward Land, I think his name was, he was the founder of Polaroid.
Right.
And Polaroid in the 60s, 70s, early 80s was one of the brilliant organizations to work for. And if you did a culture survey on them, they would have come out tops in terms of culture because everybody liked each other. The problem was that everybody liked each other because they are the same. They're the type of people you invite over to your house to bribe because you get on. So when digital printing came along, Polaroid had this absolute belief that people would always want hard copy photographs. they didn't have people in the organization who could actually speak up and say, no, that's wrong. And Polaroid were actually ahead on the digital photography type of intellectual knowledge. But a couple of years later, in the early 90s, they went into liquidation because everybody thought the same. And if you did think differently, you were then scandaled. It's almost like you were breaking the unity. So here's an interesting thing. Sometimes we say to somebody, you're an excellent team player. Well, what does that mean? You go along with what the boss says.
Yeah.
It might not be what we need.
Absolutely. I was actually coaching a team today, and they're a brilliant team. So they may even be listening. So they're a really good team. But one of the challenges that team is going to have is that they have such a deference to one another, always deferring to one another in such a way that there's no rigor in the conversation. And when a team is secure, it can have rigor in the way that it reacts with each other. Disagreement is not negative. Disagreement can be a very positive thing. It injects energy into the conversation. But if it harps back to something we spoke about the other day, is finding the third way. It's not my way or your way, but let us engage in such a way that we find that third way, which of course is synergy, right? Having that rigor in the conversation.
Yeah, and it takes courage, because none of us like to, or I don't think any of us really like to be challenged. And we become attached to certain beliefs, certain ways of doing things. But it's to recognize that somebody's different viewpoint isn't a threat. It's either going to strengthen your argument, or strengthen or provide insights that you don't have, or it's going to show you gaps and things that you need to do. So, Tom Peters, brilliant Tom Peters, and he talks about we need to invite the sufficiently weird into our lives.
I love it.
And that's like threatening, because it's nice to have people that just affirm your viewpoints. But sometimes we need people who add to our viewpoint through their difference,
yes.
or possibly even change our viewpoint.
Yeah, but it comes back to, though, the cement in a good team. It's certainly the cement in a good, diverse team is a unified sense of purpose and vision. I think if you lose sense of your vision or your purpose, then the differences can start to erode, and it starts to, because division is two vision, division. And we know that two visions in a same organization tends to split it apart. And so we need to have very strong direction of where we're going, what is our purpose, and then that strength allows us the diversity that we're looking for. But I think it would be dangerous to seek for great diversity if you don't have a good handle on purpose or vision.
Yeah, well, healthy diversity is the ability to think together differently. So, so healthy diversity is the ability to think together, but yet differently. So I hear what you're saying, Dave, because it is very important. So synergy is not separate visions or purpose; otherwise, it would be a disaster. So there is that togetherness, but into that togetherness, we bring our difference, or we bring our uniqueness, which therefore expands what we've got.
Yes.
So synergy is created because we both have a common thing that we want to achieve. But you add this, I add this. So think about it. Let me throw something at you. Some of the great partners of our time. And I know you introduced me and made me an Apple fan, but Wozniak and Jobs.
Yes.
How is that for synergy?
Yeah, exactly. The best partnerships are made of people that are diametrically opposed, almost. I mean, Wozniak is your classic introvert, believes in the bigger system, probably an anti-capitalist, probably a spin-off from the hippie era. Let's put all my knowledge out there for everyone in the world to understand. And he's partnered up with a complete capitalist, but together they made a fantastic team,
One quite risk averse, the other just do it. Yeah, bet the business.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
One who would want to just sit behind a computer, the other who would go outside and offend everybody. And I think, Dave, that's sort of been a little bit of why I think you and I have worked together well. We've definitely got the similar vision of changing the world, making a huge difference. But we do come at things from very different angles as well.
Yeah.
But not threatened by it, and we've grown into that. You know, it's not like it was always automatically there, but we've learned to accept that together, the way you do it, the way I do it, bring it together, it creates something quite powerful.
Some of our best workshops when we've worked together have been actually with us really being on the edges, the fringes of, how far apart could we be? I mean, it's interesting. So you walk into a workshop and you'll have an idea in your head of kind of how it's going to go. Me, I'm wanting to plan the thing, to plan the thing to the last 5 minutes. And I think it's interesting, you stretch me so much when I've had to go in and do something and you've taken it well off script, But I think, that has been some of our finest moments. It's a great example of synergy. Some of our workshops have gone together.
Yeah, I can still remember you sort of saying, "Where's the PowerPoint?" And then I look at you, and you do the most brilliant PowerPoints because they're certainly not the normal PowerPoint. Yours are PowerPoints on steroids. It's like just amazing stuff. And neither is right or wrong. But they're certainly powerful when they come together, and there's a place for this and a place for that. And I think there we're talking synergy.
That is synergy. That's perfect synergy. Absolutely. So let's think about this question then. How do we value one another's differences? What would, as we bring this thing to landing, what are some of the nuggets that someone could go away with as how-tos? Practically, how do we increase valuing one another's differences?
Yeah, sure. I'm not too sure really how to answer that. The thing that immediately comes to mind is to probably just not see somebody's difference as a threat, but more as an opportunity to discover. So to ask some really, really good questions. So for me, it once again comes back to a fundamental belief. Do I believe that people can add to my life, or have I got this so all together that I don't need anybody? And hopefully we can all answer that question. I need people. I need difference in my life. And I think the big thing here is difference isn't so that it changes your conviction. I don't think we're saying that. I've got certain convictions in my life which are very, very strong. But even somebody who has different convictions, their contribution to me is to make mine even stronger, or to also get me to see what they're bringing. So that brilliant Desmond Tutu quote, which says, don't raise your voice, improve your argument. And that's what we do for each other. We actually give each other the space to improve our thought process.
I love that. I love that. It comes from, again, all of these habits interlink, in such an amazing way. Seeking first to understand before being understood is at the heart of understanding the differences that we have. And then, seeking a win-win, trying to find, okay, how can we make that difference, something that we can agree on? Sometimes agreeing to disagree is a form of synergy as well, because absolutely, being in synergy isn't agreeing with each other all the time.
Yeah, but I love that scene from The Notebook. And sorry, I know we're probably going over time, but it's a beautiful chick flick, The Notebook. But towards the end, the two main protagonists, Noah and Ellie, they're having this huge fight. And she looks at him and she says, "Look, Noah, this shows why we can't be together. I'm with you for a couple of minutes, and look, we're screaming at each other." And it's so interesting, his take on it. He looks at her, he says, "This shows us why we can be together." Because when we disagree, we tell each other. And it's synergy in action from his side, which says, synergy is the ability to see somebody's opposition to you, not as being opposition, but as being, and sometimes it's a challenge. How do you make this better? Your argument's not landing with me yet.
I
how
like
do you make this better?
I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. Because conformity is just compromise. And conformity is a reduction of energy. It's finding the lowest common denominator. But being in synergy is injecting that energy and allowing that energy to create something much more powerful, meaningful within us. I love that. Well, may we all try and find synergy with the partners and the friends and the colleagues that we're in. And let's do that by honoring one another's differences and allowing those differences to become synergistic for us in every way. Here's to next time, Mike.